Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and today I'm bringing you a reading vlog where I read books that I DNF'd. Now, these are not necessarily books that I DNF'd with like a bad feeling, a bad intention. It's not because I was hating these books. It was much more of a soft DNF situation, right book, wrong time situation. This happens to me often as a mood reader. I will get a decent chunk of the way into a book, realize that I'm just not in the mood for it, and just full on ditch it. It's an unhealthy cycle, to be honest, and really bad for my TBR because I end up with all these books that I've made progress in but have never finished. And honestly, it's harder for me to circle back around to these books that I've started and made progress in because I know that I want to reread the section that I've already read in order to get the full experience of the book. And I just never feel all that motivated to reread the section that I've already read. But that's what I'm going to be doing today. I picked out 3 books that I have soft DNF'd. I thought that it might be motivating to vlog the experience and share with you how I feel about these books, if I think that they should be fully DNF'd or if I think that they deserve to be fully read. What am I trying to say? We're starting with a book that I actually started reading at the beginning of the summer, so a lot of it is still fresh with me, but I definitely want to start from the beginning, and that book is Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. I got to page 100 in the book, chapter 6, and I was really enjoying this book. I actually read a book by Chuck Tingle recently that I loved, Bury Your Gaze, and that had me really wanting to circle back to this book, so that's exactly what I'm doing. But I was really enjoying it when I read it. I just kind of found myself in a busy season. I think it was like around the 4th of July and I went out of town, so I just had to kind of ditch this book and focus on real life for a little bit. And by the time I got back around to it, I just wasn't in the mood for it. I really wanted to read a lot of books that had like a camp setting this summer and I just did not make it happen. This was like going to kick off me reading a bunch of camp style books, but again, it just didn't happen because of my DNF situation, my mood reader situation, but that's all right. We're going to be rereading this in this vlog. In this book, it very much so explores religious trauma. So nestled high up in the mountains is Camp Damascus, self-proclaimed most effective gay conversion camp in the country. Here, a life free from sin awaits, but the secrets behind the success is anything but holy. This is in fact a horror book, and there were lots of horror elements in the first 100 pages that I read, and I'm really looking forward to giving this my full attention and starting from scratch, because again, when I was reading it, life just got really busy, and so it was hard for me to focus on it, but I'm looking forward to starting over. Surprisingly looking forward to starting over. I normally would not be excited to start over, but I think because I just recently had such a good experience with another Chuck Tingle title, I'm going into this one a little bit more motivated and looking forward to starting over. I'm getting ready to head out for some brunch, even though it's like a gloomy day and I kind of just want to like crawl back in bed and just rest the day away, but I definitely want to get out of the house, so I'm looking forward to that, going to brunch. I think I'm gonna hit up a used bookstore that's just around the corner, maybe a thrift store or two. I'm trying to collect and find and track down all the original Goosebumps titles from the 90s. I think there's like 62 of them. I've been really in the mood to read Goosebumps books lately, so I might do like a reading vlog of some sort. So I'm definitely planning on doing that if I can track down all the original 62, which I feel like won't be a hard thing to do because I feel like they're easy to find. I feel like I find them all the time at used bookstores, like half-price books and whatnot. I'll be sure to update you guys if I'm able to find any today. Let me know down below in the comments if you ever read any of the original Goosebumps books growing up. I definitely read a few, and then I also loved the show. It was one of my favorites, so I'm definitely gonna be watching a lot of Goosebumps this season as well. This Halloween season. I'm saying it like we are currently in the Halloween season. I know it's September, but like September and October to me, that's Halloween. I started Haunting of Hill House the other day and I am hooked on it. It's so good. It's a nice balance between a horror and a family drama, and I'm really loving that. I love how layered the story is and how so many different things connect, so I'm looking forward to finishing that. I also have a live stream this evening. I did a loose book club with my channel members. We read Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief, and so I did a live stream yesterday, and I'm doing a live stream tonight, and it's been so weird doing like a book club on my own because I'm so used to doing it with Booksplosion, but it was interesting doing it on my own. I don't know how I feel about it yet. Still trying to figure out the format and whatnot, but I actually reread Percy Jackson through this illustrated edition, and I was devastated to find out that they did not make more of these for the rest of the series because this is so beautiful. Like there's so many stunning illustrations throughout this. Like this illustration of the cabins, so good. The illustration of Camp Half-Blood, insane. Like, I'm just obsessed with this edition, and I'm so sad that I won't be able to reread the rest of the series with other illustrated editions because I only made this one. Pathetic. Come on, publishers. Give me another one. ASAP. Anyway, I need to go get ready for brunch, so let's go get brunchin' and get to reading as well. Reading update time, I have reached chapter 7, page 118. Truthfully, I was expecting us to spend a lot more time at Camp Damascus. Like, I just went into this expecting Camp Damascus to be the backdrop, but realistically, it's not at all. In fact, it's only just now coming into play, and again, I'm 118 pages in, so it's taken that long for it to really become a thing. Mind you, there's been mentions of it here and there, but I feel like it's only just now starting to come into the plot and be a key player. I also realize the fact that it is a lot less about us going to the camp and having that as our backdrop and much more about unveiling the secrets behind the camp and all the evil that is going on behind it. It's clear that our main character Rose has been through a big event in her life, and she fully doesn't understand what that big event is and what it means for her life. And so we're alongside her and being in the dark on all the things that have happened to her. There are little clues here and there that you can pick up on, and honestly, I think I recognize where this book is going, but you're kind of just holding onto Rose's hand as she's going through this journey of figuring out what happened to her and how it has impacted her life. I feel like this is a book where once I've read it, I'll want to go back and reread it at some point, because while I think I can pick up on where things are headed, I think it'd be really cool and fascinating to have a clear picture of where this book ends up and what little crumbs were dropped in the beginning to kind of give us insight as to what's coming. I think this book is starting to hit me because of the heavy religious aspect. I'm not here to poop on any religions, I want to be clear about that, but if you're somebody who has dealt with religious trauma or is dealing with religious trauma, cautiously raising my hand, this book might be a little on the triggering side, especially the first chunk of the book, the first 50 pages. There's so many things that remind me of my childhood. This is much more extreme. Some of the things in here I'm like, whoa, that is a lot. But a specific example is not being able to consume media that had magic in it. Because of my religious upbringing, it was viewed as evil, anything with magic in it. There were obviously things that we were allowed to watch. I wasn't withheld from Disney movies that had magic in it. There were definitely things that I was not allowed to watch or enjoy because it was viewed as evil or of the devil. In this book, our main character Rose, there's a mention of Peter Pan, and she's like, oh, I've never been allowed to consume that. I've never been allowed to consume media that has magic in it. And she says something along the lines of, the only magic you need is the love of Christ. So little things like that have me just going back and processing what it was like growing up in a very religious household. I will say that I'm not feeling super connected to the main character Rose yet, but I feel like it's also just because her entire personality so far has just been Jesus Christ is my personality, and it's just a lot. It's understandable, I get her character and I understand her character, but I'm also I want you to have some growth. Open your eyes to the situation that you're in, and I hope that down the line I will feel much more connected to her, which I'm sure that will be the case. I'm sure that she will go through some character growth, and I'm very much so looking forward to that. She keeps doing this counting thing that keeps reminding me of The Haunting of Hill House, which I am currently in the depths of. I'm currently watching The Haunting of Hill House. Nell and Luke do this counting thing where they will take 7 objects and will count 7 objects, represents each member of their family. And in this book, she just counts backwards from 5. I'm only making this parallel because I'm in the thick of watching The Haunting of Hill House, which is so good, by the way. I'm loving it. I'm obsessed. I'm enjoying this book, but it also feels very heavy at times, so I'm just trying to wade my way through it, take my time with it, and process everything that is being thrown my way. I scored a little bit on finding Goosebumps books yesterday, though I have a little bit of a gripe, which I will talk about in a second. I'm going to do a little bit of a book haul situation, a little impromptu book haul, because I found so many great things yesterday. I was so excited. Did I need all of these things? Absolutely not. I've been trying to declutter my book collection, but I saw some good deals and I couldn't say no. For instance, I found the entirety of the Given manga at my used bookstore for like less than half the price of the original price, and I couldn't say no to that. This is a manga that I've been wanting to read for a very long time. It follows a band, and I'm just super excited to get around to it. Hopefully I can get around to it at some point. I think this is like the entirety of the series too. I think there's only 6 volumes out currently, so that's exciting. I found another Nancy Drew book. I've been trying to collect Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys books. This is actually one of the originals. So back in like the 1950s, all the original Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys books were revised and reprinted, and so they're a lot less thick than these originals. At some point, a company picked up the books and reprinted the originals, so that's what this is. And then I thought I got really lucky with the Goosebumps books, but then I brought them back to my house and realized that I had several reprints, which are not the same as the OG necessarily. Like, they as well have been revised and revamped, so I'm a little bit upset about that. I'm not too happy about that, but at least I have some of these like reprints to fall back on. So these are the reprints that I got. Be Careful What You Wish For, The Haunted Mask, The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena, Say Cheese and Die, Stay Out of the Basement, Night of the Living Dummy 2, A Shocker on Shock Street. And then in terms of the originals, I got Welcome to Dead House, Beware of the Snowman, A Night in Terror Tower, Phantom of the Auditorium, Why I'm Afraid of Bees, Let's Get Invisible, and How I Learned to Fly. I have a lot more to track down when it comes to Goosebumps books, but I think I'm going to go ahead and start my reading vlog for this series because I'm obviously going to want to release it in October because October is Halloween month, even though to me, September and October are Halloween, but I'm definitely gonna get started on this, and then hopefully I will just be able to track down the rest of the 62 as I go with the vlog. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. It's time to get back to reading. Let's go make more progress in Camp Damascus. Let's get to reading. Wow, it's reading update time. I finished Camp Damascus, and it's another banger from Chuck Tingle, another jingle from Chuck Tingle. That was really bad. Overall, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me. I landed on a 4-star rating, a 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like it just needed a little bit more shaping. There were times when I felt like the pacing was a little bit off, and it just needed a little bit more jazz, a little bit more pizzazz, a little bit more alakazam. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It just needed some more shaping, I guess. It's one of those books where you're constantly second-guessing yourself and trying to figure out what's real and what's not real. It's very culty, and that becomes a bigger presence when we get around to the camp and kind of figuring out the ins and outs of it and the secrets behind it. We also see sort of a sexual awakening with Rose. It's not necessarily a sexual awakening. It's almost like I don't want to like go too deep into spoilers, so I'm not going to say what I was about to say because it kind of is a sexual awakening, but it's like, I'm going to stop because I'm about to get into spoiler territory, even though I don't feel like it's super spoilery. I'll just leave it as she has a sexual awakening of sorts, but it's different than your normal sexual awakening. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say there. I think the book got more entertaining for me when the 2 side characters were introduced. They really helped bring in a lot of personality and also bring in a pretty different angle to the camp compared to what Rose herself was bringing, and I felt like this book really needed them to help add a different layer to everything. It's definitely creepy at times, but I would argue that the most interesting creepy elements of this book were not expanded on, or at least in a satisfying way, in a way where I felt satisfied. I feel like the unease and creepiness truthfully comes from the religious, culty aspect of the book. I still feel like I'm rather new to the horror genre, so I don't know that I fully know everything that you're supposed to expect when going into a horror book, but it really delivered for me. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time, and I think that that's all that matters when you're like first kind of being inducted into a new genre, is your satisfaction with it, your enjoyment of it. Oh, my stomach is growling. I am hungry. It's almost lunchtime. But I would say that I had a really good time with this one. I think that I like this one a lot for the commentary that it does bring forth on religion. If you're somebody that finds that interesting, I would recommend it. I just don't know if I would recommend it for people who are like well-versed in the world of horror. In terms of DNF, I'm so glad that I circled back around to this book. I would not recommend DNFing this book. I could see why somebody might DNF it, honestly, because of my like few critiques. I feel like the pacing can be a little bit tough to like stick through, but if you're willing to stick through it and see it through to the end, I think that you will find a really thought-provoking story on religious trauma. I don't think it's a book that will necessarily work for everybody, but it worked for me, and that makes me happy. Now let's go inside and talk about my next read for this video. The next book that I'm going to be reading is one that I feel the most cautious about because I wasn't sure how I was feeling about it when I was reading it. The book in question is Bad Kids. This is a thriller story. In it, we follow these kids who are one day just like goofing around at a park, and they were filming things around them, and they end up filming a murder on accident. And they decide, instead of taking this footage to the police and being like, yo, a murder happened, they're going to take this footage and they're going to blackmail the killer and have him give them lots of money. When I first read it, I got to chapter 28, page 108. I remember that I just didn't feel much about it. Like, it didn't wow me. I wasn't impressed, but there was something about it that had me want to keep reading. I just obviously didn't keep reading. So I'm going to be circling back and starting over from scratch. I think the thing that is drawing me back to it is that it brings in a lot of perspectives. Like, you're seeing through the eyes of a bunch of different characters, and I love that style, especially in a thriller style book. I feel like it just works really well, and I feel like there's a reason for that. Like, obviously we are getting all these perspectives for a specific reason. They're all going to come into play, and hopefully by the end of it, it'll be a masterpiece. I don't know. Before I get started with reading, I got a package in the mail. This is from Simon & Schuster. I have no idea what this book is, so let's find out what it is together. I believe this is unsolicited book mail, which I'm never mad at. Hopefully it's going to be something that I'm interested in. Ooh, okay, well, it's the second book in a duology, so I don't know about that. Depends on if I have the first book. Ooh, I mean, it's cool looking. The book is called Ghostsmith, book 2 in the House of the Dead duology, and honestly, that sounds like something that I would like, just based off the title. I guess I shouldn't read the description if this is the second book, because it might spoil the first book, but let me know down below in the comments if you guys have read the first book in this duology, and if I should give it a go. I'll hold on to this until I hear from you guys. Anyway, you know the drill. Let's get to reading. Reading update time. I need like a reading update time jingle. Reading update time, yeah. I should not be the one to make it because it will just turn out something like that. Bad jingle. Bad kids, bad jingle. I have made it to chapter 40, page 158 in this book. This book is built up on short chapters, which makes me super excited. I'm a short chapter lover because it makes me feel like a champion speed reader. Where's my trophy? I'm waiting, not so patiently. It took a while for things to sort of evolve with this book, honestly, and I feel like that could be why I had such a hard time with it in the first place when I first was reading it. It's like, brother, can we get things a-moving? Board the train and get going. I need to chug-a-lug along. But something so sick and twisted just happened in the book that I feel like will be a catalyst for opening up the door into things being much more interesting, and I don't foresee it going well for all involved. I really thought that this book was going to just focus on the blackmailing of the killer, and the killer being like, y'all can't blackmail me, I'm a killer, I'm gonna come after you guys, but it definitely has switched into a much more unexpected lane, and is very much so going down the bad kids lane. When I first was reading this book, didn't really understand the title, but now I understand the title. I get why it's titled Bad Kids, because the kids are bad. The kids do bad things. I will say it is almost hard to read because a lot of the things that are happening are just so heartless and are so painful and just it's like just difficult to read. Those are all the thoughts that I have so far, but I'm glad that I'm having a better experience with this book this second time around. I think I probably just needed to reach a certain point in the book, and when I first was reading this book, I just don't think that I had the patience. But like I said, this is the book that I'm the most nervous about getting back to, so I'm glad that like things have kind of switched up and I have different feelings about it now. Today is the day that I get ready for spooky season, and I'm so freaking excited about it. I'm going to be decorating the house. That's what I'm going to be spending my day doing. I'm going to be decorating and reading. I'm so ready for it. I'm so ready for Halloween season to be here. And I know it's only September. And if you're somebody who is like, it's only September, why are we decorating for Halloween? Why are we getting excited for Halloween? Don't steal my joy, please. Joy thieves are not in for the year of 2024. Our ghosty mascot is going to be very excited to see all the Halloween decorations go up. He is around all year. We gave him a name at some point, but I honestly can't remember it, so I'm gonna have to go back and figure out what his name is. Let's get to decorating. Let's get to reading. I will update you guys when I'm finished with Bad Kids. Reading update time. I finished Bad Kids and oh my god, I'm sort of shook as to where the second half of this book took the story. There were two really big things that happened in the second half that just like left me in shambles. I'm talking jaw on the floor. I'm talking chills up and down my arms. I'm talking an intense feeling of unease. And I sort of found myself being like, how did we get here? Because it's such a big shift. Things up until like the second half of the book are pretty subtle in nature, and it's much more about these kids blackmailing this killer and trying to get money out of him. But it just changes so much by the end of it. Like, the second half feels like a completely different story. It's incredibly gut-wrenching, and this is definitely a book that like has left an impression on me. Like, it has marked my mind, and I don't think it's a mark that will ever come off. Like, I feel like this could be a new like Roman Empire book for me, one that I just think about often. It's a book that definitely thrives on plot twist, and in my opinion, I think it does it really well. I did feel like there were parts of the pacing that could have been tightened up a little bit to kind of have things kind of move at a smoother pace. Specifically at the beginning, I think we could have gotten from point A to point B rather quickly, and it took its time to get there. And I think it can be hard to feel connected to the characters because they are so young, and at times it's so messy with all that they get involved in, and you just kind of want to be like, stop doing what you're doing, go be kids, go learn and grow, please, I am begging of you. But I think them being so young benefits the plot, because if the characters were older, they would have never have made a lot of the decisions that the characters make. Because they're rather young, it can be easy to be like, well, they're just young, they don't really know what they're getting themselves into. And two of the characters are in a pretty dire situation. Like, they need money, they are desperate to get their hands on money, so a lot of the decisions that they make, it's easy to see why they commit to those things. They're just doing what they can to survive. I also think that you sort of get caught up in the innocence of the young characters, that it's almost used as a distraction from the bigger things that start to bubble up throughout the book. It does a really fantastic job, of bringing in suspense. There's a string of anxiety that runs through the book, and the author knows the exact times to just strum that string and cause chaos and this feeling of unease. Like, the book already has this sort of intense feeling, and then when the author comes through and just like strums that string, it just intensifies. I ended up on a 4-star rating with this book, a 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like I understand why I DNF'd this book, and I understand why a lot of people would DNF this book. Things don't really start to pick up until like the halfway point. There are some interesting things that take place in the first chunk of the book. I would argue that it's not interesting enough to really grip somebody, so I think you have to sort of be in this book for the long haul. When you get into it, you kind of have to understand that things will pick up at some point, and you will feel a lot stronger about it in the second half. But I think for me, I just needed much more of a pull in the beginning, something to kind of like really suck me in and get me hooked on the plot. So overall, really enjoyed it. Now let's go and pick out my next read for this video, my next and final read. The last book that I'm planning to read for this video is Spellbound by F.T. Lukens. I am so excited to get back around to this book, and I didn't even have a solid reason as to why I soft DNF'd this one, because I was enjoying it. I think I mostly just like forgot that I was reading it, which happens to me a lot. As somebody who is like reading different things constantly, there are times when I will just soft DNF a book because of the fact that I forgot that I was even reading it. But I was enjoying this one so much. It's so wholesome and so fun. It's like just the right amount of magic, just the right amount of romance, just the right amount of comedy. In this book, we are following two different apprentices. We've got Rook, who is the apprentice to Antonia. Antonia is not supposed to have an apprentice because she had some issues with a past one, and we learn more about why that is as we read on. Then we've got Sun, who is the apprentice to Fable, and Fable and Antonia are feuding. They're rivals. I believe the two sorceresses end up finding themselves in trouble, and their apprentices, their assistants, have to figure out a way to work together and get them out of that trouble. I really loved what I first read of it, and I got to page 106 when I was first reading it. I didn't even stop at a chapter break, so I don't know what's up with that. That's disgusting behavior. I do not approve of that. And I was very much so enjoying the romance aspect of the book. The two assistants have some tension between them. They don't necessarily outright admit it, but they're like catching feelings as they interact with each other. And I was just having so much fun watching that develop, so I can't wait to get back into that. They have some really fun banter throughout the book. And I also remember really loving the sorceresses. Antonia is very much so that wild, doesn't have it all together type of witch, and I love that. And then Fable is like the polar opposite. For the most part, she wants to like follow by the rules. She wants everything to go in a certain order and a certain plan, and I love that contrast between the two. I'm excited to get back into this. Without further ado, let's get to reading. Reading update time. I have made more progress in Spellbound and I am loving it, but I am on chapter 10, page 155. You know what it is? It's just pure fun. That's exactly what this book embodies. If anything, the entertainment levels in this book are through the roof. The magic is fun, the characters are even more fun, and it's just an all-around good vibe. Like, it's just one of those books that's like a sunshine book. Like, I just have a hard time not being happy while I'm reading it. Like, I am catching myself constantly just like smiling as I'm reading this book. It's definitely not one of those like highbrow fantasy books. It's silly, it's goofy, it's cutesy. Oh my god, it's cutesy. The romance that is developing is so pure. One of the characters' son is sort of embodying the grumpy sunshine trope. And like, sure, that trope might be a little bit tired now. It might be overused, but like, I'm eating it right up. Like, it kind of is one of those tropes that just gets me. Like, I so enjoy it. I think it's a fun time. I will say we haven't really gotten to like the main conflict of the story. I do see like the seeds and I think I know where it's going, but I just am surprised that like nothing really vital has happened necessarily. But I will say that this book feels like a romance more than anything. It's not really about the magic, about the world. It's really about Sun and Rook coming together and forging a romantic partnership. But I'm not saying it's overwhelming. It's got like a nice balance of everything, and it's not the characters locking eyes and falling in love instantly. This is not an insta-love situation. It's very much so a progression. Like, we are seeing that progression. We are seeing each step in them coming closer together, and I'm honestly here for it. Like, I'm really into it. It's such a good time. So I'm excited to keep reading this. I'm getting ready to go inside and do some reading sprints with my channel members, which I'm so excited about. I haven't been able to do one for a while now. I typically do 2 a week, and they're like the highlights of my week, honestly. Like, I just have so much fun with them. So I'm getting ready to do that. Tonight, I am seeing Beetlejuice, the sequel to Beetlejuice, which I'm going into like cautiously optimistic. I want to be excited about it, but I just feel like reboots like this or sequels like this have done me dirty in the past, so I'm just going in a little bit cautiously optimistic. I just hope that it adds something to the franchise and doesn't just feel like a cash grab, because I never feel good when I'm watching something that's been rebooted, or I'm watching a sequel that's come like 10, 20 years later, and it just feels like they were like, oh, we can do some fan service and get some money. I got this Domokun blind box, so I thought that I would do a little bit of an unboxing. Unbox the Domokun with me. This is a Japanese character, and it's honestly bringing me back to like middle school, high school days when I had a MySpace, because I used to have a Domokun specific MySpace layout. There's one that I really want that is checkered, so hoping to get that one, but they're all really cute. Let's open her up and find out what I got. Oh, okay. It's like one that has like a wrestling mask on. Not the one that I wanted, but I will take it. I'm not really a wrestling kind of guy, but I don't know. Maybe he'll help me like wrestle my anxiety or something like that. That would be nice. Can you help me out with that, buddy? Will you help me wrestle my anxiety, little buddy? Anyway, let's get back to reading. Let's do it. Let's go. Back with a reading update, but before I get to the reading update, I just want to talk a little bit about Goosebumps. I personally really enjoyed it. I thought it was like such a fun addition to this franchise. I feel like they did a really good job with it. There were elements of it that I felt could have been like fleshed out just a little bit. Like, there was one thing that I was like looking forward to after watching the trailer. I can't spoil, obviously. I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but there was just like one little storyline that I felt like could have been so much more interesting or so much more entertaining. But other than that, I was very satisfied with this new addition to the Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Did I call it Goosebumps, Goosebumps? I think I did. I keep calling it Goosebumps, Goosebumps. I don't know why either. They're clearly not the same thing. Anyway, I finished Spellbound and I had so much fun with this book. If anything, this is such an entertaining, light, and fun read. There are some like serious things that happen, so I don't want to say it's like the most lighthearted thing ever, but it really is very lighthearted for the most part. Like, it's mostly a romance story in a magical setting, and I loved that aspect of it. Honestly, I wish I could read the very last line of this book to you, but I want those of you who are planning to read this book to experience it for yourself. But like, just the last like paragraph is so beautiful and just like had me melting. I was just like, I am melting from the pureness, the wholesomeness, the cutesiness. It's not a book that will leave you feeling like, wow, this is the most magnificent book ever. Like, to me, it's not even like 5-star level necessarily. I would say entertainment level 5 out of 5 stars, but like on a critical level, I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. That's where I'm landing with it. It's a fun fantasy story with pretty low stakes, which was a nice change of pace for me. I feel like when I read fantasy, it's typically like pretty intense, pretty serious, a little bit more on the higher intensity side of things, and it was nice to have a break from that and just read something like really fun and chill. It's not the most interesting or intricate magical world, but it's very accessible. It's very easy to kind of get a grasp on everything. It utilizes ley lines, which is always fun. I always love like a ley line moment in a book. My favorite aspect of this book were the character bonds. We have a lot of just like unlikely pairs in this book, and seeing those people kind of come together and set their differences aside was really fun. I really enjoyed seeing each and every connection made, because there's quite a few different connections that are being made. We've got the sorceresses, we've got Sun and Rook, we've got Rook and Antonia, just lots of different connections happening in the story, and I really enjoyed seeing those all come together. I definitely want to check out more books by F.T. Lukens, so if you guys have read a book by this author that you loved, definitely let me know about it down below in the comments. And with that, it is ranking time. It is time to rank the books, which is actually going to be really hard for me, because I feel like these two are on the same level for me, but for different reasons. But I think because this one is so fresh on my mind and I literally just finished reading it, I feel like I have to give Spellbound the first place slot. Even though that's really hard for me. Then I'm gonna go second place, Camp Damascus, and third place, Bad Kids. Even though, again, I really loved all of these books. I had so much fun reading each and every one of them. I had so much fun circling back around to these books that I kind of soft DNF'd. I want to hear from you guys down below in the comments. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them. If you haven't read any of these books, then just let me know down below in the comments some books that you have soft DNF'd, but you know you're going to circle back around to those books at some point. Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye.